Yes, thank you, Taylor, for that introduction. And um, we coined our trip to Lakeside as the Fantastic Voyage. It's great to see you, Kate. And that's actually, there's a group called Lakeside, and they have a song called Fantastic Voyage. But it was something that we had not done before. Anwar and I, he was my co-chef on that project. I myself, most of my experience is really with K to 5. That's mainly where my experience was for many years before coming to WITS. I did a little bit with middle school, which is special, middle school special. And I love what you said, Kate, about at Promise School, right? Love that. Total reframing. And so, yes, this age group in particular is a challenge and has really significant needs. But WITS, Wellness in the Schools, we call ourselves WITS. Our focus is teaching kids healthy habits to learn and live better. Where better to do that than in a school environment, especially because we're based in New York. And so we have a huge audience and can reach many, many kids in different age groups. And sadly, the statistics are that 1 in 3 kids are overweight or obese. And so reaching children in schools around wellness programming just makes sense across the board. So we have a program called Cook for Kids, and I am a program manager with Cook for Kids. And so we expose children to a culinary experience. And so it introduces them to good nutrition. It reinforces healthy eating. And, we have, our chefs are professionally trained. Many of them have graduated from culinary schools, but in particular, Natural Gourmet Institute, where you really focus on whole foods as a central theme to adopting healthy habits. And we know that, I participated in a webinar yesterday about ultra processed foods. And this is what, when you talk about a particular group of people, right, and children in particular in urban communities, they are getting exposed mainly to to ultra processed food. So for us to bring in whole food is an entire experience, teaching them about the nutrition, but also teaching them how to prepare it. We're actually affecting palates and changing the way kids think about food. And so, for 15 years, WITS has deployed chefs into schools to host live events. And so it includes culinary lab classes. We're in cafeterias where we do tastings. We have a partnership with the Office for Food and Nutrition Services, Department of Education. And so we will help the staff cook the food, give it great flavor, transform it, introduce it to the children. When they see new things on the menu, we're there promoting the new items. And then we're also in the classroom and do nutrition education curriculum. And so we also do work with parents. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But it's just the whole building, the principal, the school administration. And so, it's a full breadth of the program. So our partnership with Whole Health Ed actually brought our curriculum to the middle school students in South Jersey. And we didn't even know the student body. And so whenever we go to, a new environment, we try to make sure we understand the kids that we're going to encounter. And so, we were invited to the classroom. Thank you very much. But the students had just come from a mindfulness track. And so because of their heightened awareness through that practice in the former track, they were unusually receptive to us. They were ready for what we had to teach. And so you could see the increased benefit of the programming. We do it all the time, but sometimes you have to get through those blocks. But because these students were coming in with this mindfulness understanding, they were very open. And so we had kids do this chart where they got to write their feedback during class. So they could stop their cooking and go to the wall and draw pictures and thoughts, because we really wanted to capture what they were saying. But you know, I've 20 of these things, but I wanted to particularly focus on this one because one of the students says, I will definitely tell my mom about this delicious meal. So now this experience is going home. And that is the other half of this, right? So there was an evaluation done by the Tisch Center for Food Education and Policy. And what they found is that when nutrition programs and education around nutrition are led by professionals, whether that's chefs or nutritionists, it actually increases the consumption of more fruits and vegetables. And it found that making wellness a priority and letting these professionals lead holistic plans, holistic programs through events and activities not only improves possible health outcomes, but improves the school culture. And so that's a huge one. So this focus on how wellness impacts the entire school's culture is actually a COVID conversation, because that's where we're going. So I just wanted to highlight that when the chancellor of New York City Department of Education wrote a letter about the school closings because of COVID, he said schools must consider several factors for reopening health and safety: social, emotional, and mental health, and blended learning. And so social, emotional, and mental health was featured as a priority. So there are statistics here, and you know, there are other reports and research, but particularly about the positive aspects of behavior and the increase of that. And so I wanted to say that in the photo that you see of me, of the invitation that was sent out, and I talked to Taylor about it, what you don't see in that picture is that the boys at that table were having a little struggle. They were challenged, they were having behavioral problems. And so, you know, as educators, we know that when that happens to a child, that they are really calling for attention. And so I got in there. And so that's why you see me at that table with those particular boys. And so what I did was I walked them through, I almost held their hands through the process of cooking. And so it gave them a kind of leadership, because what I did was I put the focus on that table and I put the focus on them. And I was telling the other students, watch what they're doing. And so immediately we saw a shift in how they were interacting with the class. And then at the end, you know, it's always those ones, right? The promise ones that are asking for seconds and thirds, you know, and then they're like, haha, you know, they're taking the bragging rights, because that day we made veggie chili and cornbread. So engaging students in this active participation is really WITS' secret sauce. We're doing it now virtually because we have pivoted to online classes and online presentations. But the full program, you know, includes Wendy Siskin is here, one of my colleagues, and she's going to talk about the active recess play. We also have Green for Kids, which we are really focusing on to help support schools around safety and sanitation as we go back. And then we have an extension of wellness through a partnership. We have many, many partnerships, but this one in particular I wanted to highlight, which is a 14-week program called Feast, which teaches parents in schools how to cook, how to shop. It gives them a deep dive into sustainable food sources and nutrition know-how. So we really feel at WITS that, you know, this concept of the whole child, particularly at this time from a wellness perspective, has, you know, we see it's finally come into the national focus. And we believe that, you know, WITS is perfectly positioned to be a partner in this across the US.